That's right. And remember, most of the schools of philosophy, all the good that they ever created was to continually bash the other school.
Yeah, exactly.
For centuries, they were just fussing over minutiae, which had never really added anything to the world. When the atheism comes along to finally replace the rationalism and the theology, it doesn't really create anything new. Atheists don't return back to, and that includes most of the materialists and what have you today, who are behind the science world, they don't turn back to what is really the question of existence. They just create another mysterium for themselves. That mysterium shares many of the effects of the previous mysterium. You may have taken off the sort of theological edge to it, but you still have the same mysterium when it comes to psychology. In other words, like we said, the mysterium creates a false understanding of oneself. Well, the people who are running the world today are still disaffected by that. That didn't go out the door just because they said there's no God.
Right, exactly.
Right? They still have a faulty understanding of their own existence. And secondly, they even have a deeper mysterium, which is a false understanding of nature itself. Right? Nature has become the new, or not nature itself, but a perverted understanding of nature, which is partly anthropomorphic and other problem, technological, that it doesn't have a consciousness and so forth and so on, became the new form of mysterium. And see, when that one's dead, there'll be another one.
Yeah, of course. It's the new God, basically, the new religion that you're talking about, right? Because
right.
Again, if it's true what you say about the death of Christianity and all the other religions, then humankind might want to go for something else. They want to have something to still cling on to, a new mysterium, just as you say.
And this is what has been happening right across the board. There's many examples of this, by the way. If you study the works of many of the people who are behind this cyber, the sort of cybernetic movement and the genetics movement and what have you, you see that it is a false understanding of the body. It is a false understanding of nature that is ultimately behind what they're doing.
Yeah.
The whole idea that fixing what isn't broken and so forth and so on, this is, again, a misunderstanding of how nature operates and what nature is. And until people really understand these fundamentals, understand the depth of the delusion in which they're caught in, there's never going to be really any quantum change. Remember we said at the very beginning that this concept of the mysterium is a definition of human neurosis.
Yeah.
If we face the fact that at the time of the birth of the ego, this mysterium came into existence, either it's an epiphenomena of ego existence, or it even is the ego, or it is what helps you to have this mythical, phantasmic understanding of your self-identity, then we see that anything that contradicts the programming of the mysterium, yes, is the reason why people are becoming neurotic. Because even though you have a mysterium, it doesn't mean that nature ceases to exist. It doesn't matter, as you earlier mentioned, that the instincts, like the animals you said operate on the instincts, remember?
Yeah.
Those instincts are called archetypes from psychology. They still exist. In fact, as we said, the self exists in the deepest hemisphere of man's mind. Those things still exist and still work on the consciousness regardless of how you repress them. In fact, in many schools of psychology, including Freudian, the more you repress something, the more you set yourself up for it to work on you.
Yeah.
Take that one step further, and when we said that all repressed content works to become fate, remember that whole idea that what you don't look at within yourself turns up outside of you as fate, the old Jungian principle?
Mm-hmm.
You see how important this is? This ties into why the Taoists probably did have this non-interference policy. They knew fine well that the man who is struggling with himself, who desperately wants to repress his true self, he's not going to win that battle because that sense of self is too strong. And the very act of suppressing it, suppression is what the world does, repression is what we do. So the mind the unconscious mind, all the content of the unconscious is put there because of suppression by the world, to which you must conform in order to have a worldly existence. And it is repressed by your own ego in order to create a false homeostasis so that you can feel that you have this false sense of identity. But those repressed aspects of yourself have many ways of coming back and invading your consciousness and pulling you back to the true homeostasis, which man for centuries and millennia now has tried to resist, you see? So the tension is then created between the non-man, the inexistent man, and the existent man. Existence, nature, will always be there. It will always creep up on you. Heisenberg said it. He goes, are we really seeing an experiment as we want to, or are we seeing... He has a quote somewhere, it's in the article I wrote, where he says, we don't see nature as it really is. You know, we see only our impressions about nature.
Yeah.
You know, Schopenhauer said, the world is my idea. Hegel, others, they've all said this. So man is then trapped in this bubble. Like I said, he's wearing this mask that's been sort of nailed onto his skull that he has to deal with. And therefore there's something about the real that always pulls you back. But it does it through a chemical divorce mechanism. It does it through deconstruction, not construction. The Taoists, the Zen, the Jains, the Druids, they all knew that because you stand in opposition to what is real, you set yourself up to attract the very forces of destruction, if you want, or deconstruction more correctly, that will work upon your falseness to drag it down. Figulus, the alchemist, he said that nothing changes unless it is first broken down to its first matter. You know, the whole idea that carbon is the basis and all that. Until things are broken down into their basic elements, you can never have the phoenix rise from the ashes. So what we're looking at now is the, and you were hinting at this earlier, there is something happening in nature already. There's something happening outside of man's own sphere of influence that is causing an erosion of the mechanisms. You see these false phantasms that have become created. The self will not be suppressed. It will call man back, or it will destroy him. It will destroy the constructs that he's living in the shadow of this great beast. It will literally he'll build it up and build it up and build it up, only for it to either topple again, you know, so that he comes back to the true state of existence. The man who does this through his volition, the man who does this of his own will, that's a different creature. He has to step outside the norms, the song Tom Sawyer by Rush. You know, he's got to go against the flow. His mind is not going to be for rent, you know, to any god or government.